20 years, CAGBC has supported the building sector as it transitions to buildings that are better for the people and the planet. To celebrate our 20th anniversary, we're hosting conversations with members who have had an impact on the organization. We're happy to have with us Joe Van Belleghem, one of the co-founders of CAGBC and a leading figure in green building in Canada. He joins us for a conversation on the past, present, and future of CAGBC. Joe, it's a pleasure to have you here with us today to reflect on the past achievements.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Perfect. So we'll start with the first question. So as I mentioned, CAGBC is celebrating its 20th anniversary this year. Can you tell us a bit about your involvement with the founding of CAGBC?
Yeah, I was involved right from the very beginning, wrote the initial business case to figure out how we were going to fund the organization, acted as sort of interim director, executive director while we did a search and raised funds for the organization. And obviously with Kevin Hydes and Peter Busby and many others, we put together the original direction to form the organization to get it going. So quite involved right from the beginning.
Fantastic. In the beginning, the dominant mindset was one in which protecting the environments was a compliance issue. From your experience, has CAGBC been successful in changing this approach?
It's interesting you say that because I've never really viewed LEED or the council as being the goal of it being a compliance tool. I've always sort of viewed it as being getting people into the game and really understanding the benefits of designing buildings that are good for the environment, good for people, and that make economic sense. You realize just how much logical sense once you start designing green buildings are from both an environmental, social, and economic perspective. So again, I've never really thought of it as a goal to be codifying our green building movement in building codes. I think it's actually more about trying to get people into the game, drawing inspiration, and really opening people's minds so that you can really push the envelope moving forward, to really create better buildings and better cities.
Now, certifications can usually be used as a great indicator for sort of the green building momentum within a country or within a region more specifically. How do you think CAGBC has done when compared to the initial forecast of the certification targets in Canada?
I was trying to find the initial business plan we put together. The one thing I do know, it was woefully underestimated, which I kind of anticipated at the time. I remember sharing the projections of how many members we would have and how many certifications we have, and everyone was going, geez, this is too aggressive. But in my heart, I knew that, if others started doing it, others would follow and the momentum would, accelerate pretty well. Obviously, CAGBC has done tremendous globally in terms of per capita, which is no surprise. I mean, we as Canadians and we take our environment seriously, and I'm just really proud of how everybody in the country that's been involved in this has really pushed it forward. So I'm not surprised by the momentum. The question is, can we sustain that and move to the next level?
No, absolutely. And in keeping with what you're mentioning, Canada's ranked second globally on the list of top 10 countries and regions for LEED in 2021. What do you think we need to do in order to continue to drive that certification and adoption of green buildings and sort of really keep that velocity, as you were mentioning, up?
Yeah, I mean, I think, LEED in particular, and again, in my view, LEED should never have been viewed as a compliance tool. It was really just to get people to think about it. I mean, I often joke, people were surprised when I told them that when we first did our LEED Platinum buildings, we had $1 million penalty, that I never actually looked at the LEED checklist until we were willing, just about to submit for building permit, because I didn't want our teams to be point chasing and I wanted them to think broadly. I think the future, we need to really expand what LEED's about to also incorporate social equity into it. I fundamentally believe that when you approach the design of buildings or mixed use communities, that you really have to come from that mindset of being environmentally, socially, and economically responsible. And when you look at it from that lens, everything gets stronger, the pie gets bigger, the economics get bigger, the social impact gets bigger than the environmental. So I think it's time for us to revisit LEED from that perspective and really realize that the world's facing a lot of pressures, whether that's homelessness, affordable housing, just inclusiveness in what we do in our designs and our communities. So I'm hoping that that's the next thing we as Canadians, or the Canada Green Building Council, really leads the green building movement on, to try to really adopt more of this triple bottom line kind of approach to developments.
Absolutely. So in addition to the triple bottom line, what do you think CAGBC should also aim to focus on over the next 20 years?
It's funny, the development community, if you look at around the world, in the United States, the green building movement really largely initially got fueled momentum from the public sector. In Australia, it was really fueled by the private sector. It was private sector developers. In Canada, it was sort of a mixture of both. And I think, in my personal belief, I think what we need to do is just celebrate successes more. It's about getting more and more people into the game. You don't want to have people go, oh, yeah, I just want to do a green building because I need the LEED certification. You want them to go in to understanding the importance of it and celebrating that, because the more you celebrate, the more people want to get into the game. And so I think that would be one thing I would suggest, is celebrate the wins more. There's a lot of negativity in the world right now, and just celebrating positive impacts and storytelling is so important. I mean, I know for myself personally, I learned so much from, just reading about or seeing what other people are doing. And it's not often what they're doing in a green building design, it's how they did it, because as we all know, to do great stuff, you need a different kind of a mindset to make it happen.
No, absolutely. Sharing the successes is absolutely important. And I think we do quite a bit of that, but there's always room for improvement, and the how is very important as well.
Yeah.
With this perspective, I believe we'll be concluding the interview. So Joe, thank you so much for your time today, for your involvement with CAGBC from the beginning, and for sharing the journey that it's been so far as we continue to build a more sustainable future going forward.
Awesome, and couldn't be more thrilled by the success of the organization and all the countless volunteer hours that people have put in over the years.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Ensemble, we are building our way forward to a sustainable future.